always better when we're together. Ooh, it's always better when we're
Hi, I'm Reverend Carissa.
And I'm Matthew Surber.
And we are back and we are together for our Better Together series. After being separated because of COVID, we are really glad to be back together. And we are, it's true, we are better together.
Much better.
Much better. So today we want to talk about one of these big ideas that Matthew actually teaches a lot in Matthew's work. What Matthew does, he's the program training specialist at the Board of Child Care, and so he does trainings for onboarding new staff and just helping them to do a good job working well with people. Is that a good summarization? And so the idea that we want to talk about today is called escaping the power struggle. Now, a power struggle is kind of a technical term for any kind of conflict where suddenly you feel like you're stuck. And so I think about like the ASL symbol for car crash is like this. Like two cars coming together and just like crashing against each other, or like two football teams hitting each other. You go like this for sign language. So both of those kind of symbolize the power struggle, coming together and then crashing and just kind of being stuck in that situation. In our lives, this could be trying to get Deacon to do anything and then he doesn't want to do it. Or it could be that you're like having an argument with somebody about something that you both are really passionate about and you really disagree on, and there's not really a good solution. And so, power struggles are all over the place, right? They can be little, big, but we don't have to stay stuck in them. There are some options to get us out of these power struggles so that we're not just stuck in conflict, but we can move through things and love each other well. So, Matthew, you teach this every month. How do we escape the power struggle?
Yeah, the title of the section when we teach this is called Drop the Rope. It's the idea that we're in a tug of war back and forth.
So like you have one end of the rope, I have one end.
Yeah, neither person wants to give ground, and we're really, like you said, we're stuck in that moment. So we teach a lot of different ways to try to drop the rope.
So as long as we're both holding the rope, we're both stuck together and stuck in conflict.
Nobody goes anywhere.
Yeah.
The first thing that's important to know about a power struggle is that they're ego-driven. If you are stuck in a power struggle, chances are it's because your ego doesn't want to give up. And you feel like if you're giving up, you're giving away something. You're giving away power, authority, whatever it might be. And that can be really hard for us. The reason that most power struggles start is because there's something really core in there that we're having a hard time letting go of. And so we have to kind of be aware that that can be our own sort of work that we've got to do for ourselves.
So like if Deacon's freaking out in Target and I'm losing my mind and we're in a power struggle, it's because I have the ego of like, I don't want to look like a bad mom.
Yes, exactly.
So like, I'm going to like fight with him and be like, you better behave. And then this is going to escalate.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And certainly, you know, I teach it from the perspective of working with kids, but it's the same in like a family or a marriage or a relationship, anything like that, a church council meeting. Perfect places where we get into power struggles. So there's really four things that we try to do to help us drop the rope. The first one is called managing the environment. And that typically in the situation of a power struggle is like, we maybe just need to be somewhere else. You know, if you're in the middle of a church council meeting, it can be really difficult to be able to take that step back because there's so many people around watching, there's more pressure, you've really sort of planted your flag on a particular issue, and it can be hard to backtrack in those moments. So sometimes it's just like getting that conversation away from a place where it's going to be heightened.
So in a meeting, it might be like, hey, let's take 5 minutes and I'll like get a cup of water, come back, or even like, let's identify points we need to learn more about and when we're going to return to this later.
Yeah, like table the discussion and move on into some other things.
Not forever, but just like pressing pause.
Another important thing about the power struggle is validating feelings. You feel something very strongly. That's what got you into the power struggle in the first place. And recognizing that in yourself and in the other person can be really important to just say like, this is really a critical issue for you. I get that. I see how upset you are. I can tell like you're really frustrated. You're really angry with me right now. And just identifying kind of what's going on for the other person, it creates a bridge, right? When we've talked about that in a lot of our different sort of sections, as we've talked about communication and active listening and all those things, right? We really want to validate kind of how the other person is feeling and what they're experiencing in that moment.
Yeah, and when we talked about active listening, I remember we talked about, it was like summarizing. So like, hey, it seems like you're feeling really tired because you went through this situation, this situation, this situation.
Right.
That sounds so exhausting. Like, it doesn't mean I'm agreeing with your stance. It doesn't mean that I'm condoning if there was some like bad behavior that happened, but I'm showing empathy.
Yeah.
And I'm recognizing like, hey, you have feelings, you're a person too.
Right.
Yeah.
Another big one is changing expectations. And this can look like shifting a deadline, or, if I think about it with, in our household, it might be like, hey, by tomorrow, can you have all the dishes washed? I'm not feeling that. How about you wash like half the dishes? Or you get at least the dishes we're going to need for like cooking tomorrow. I need dish X, Y, and Z, right? So that's kind of changing that expectation and making something a little bit more manageable, so that the person who maybe is feeling stuck suddenly doesn't have to do quite so much to achieve the success that they're looking for.
And like we talked about expectations, right? Expectations need to be realistic and conscious and spoken. So it sounds like what you're saying is, if you're communicating an unrealistic expectation, that might be why you're in the power struggle.
Right.
So making it more realistic,
Yep.
lowering expectations, and it's okay to lower expectations sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is a case where moving the goalpost is a good thing.
Yeah.
And then finally is just giving choices, finding ways to offer some other options to the situation. So it might be, if you're stuck on an issue like dishes or doing chores around the house, like, hey, I really need some chores to get done. I hear that like you're putting your foot down on dishes, but can you help me like break up boxes and get the recycling out? If you're not going to get your history homework done tonight, can you at least like do some of the reading that you have assigned? So giving people a chance to kind of make some choices, it re-empowers them. Often a power struggle can end up with one person feeling like they've lost agency, the power to make their own choices. So when you can give that back and be like, here are some extra choices, then you really re-empower them to have some control.
I feel like that's the number one way we parent, right? Deacon's like, I don't want to stop watching TV. And we're like, well, would you like to watch it again tomorrow, or do you like to watch it again on Saturday? And he doesn't know what Saturday means. So he picks Saturday because that seems fun. But just giving those choices, right? If you're two, you don't have a lot of power. So any choice you can have, helps him cooperate, because he feels like, oh, I get a say in this. I get a say in this.
Anytime you can give someone that sort of agency back in a power struggle, it really can do a lot, because it's about that ego, right? If you can give some of that back, you're letting go of some of it for yourself, and you're allowing them to repair some of that.
Yeah, for sure. I remember early in our marriage when we had a lot more loud fights, I would sometimes get to this point where we were in like a power struggle, and it would be like, I just need an out. You get to the point where you realize like, okay, I screwed up too. We're both to blame. We want to work through this. How are we going to work through this? But like, somebody's got to drop the rope first, and whoever drops the rope first, it feels like you're ceding ground in the battle, but you are winning in the war because like long term, you're building for the future of that relationship. We're going to talk more about forgiveness next week. But for this week, this whole idea makes me think about the quote, when you have to choose between being right and being kind, choose kind. If you have to choose between being right and being kind, choose kind. And so I hope that all of these ideas help give you some ideas. It may be in a situation you're feeling like, man, if my daughter just knew that I know the right way to do this, I know how this should go. Maybe you're caught in a power struggle with someone that you love. I wonder how these options could help you to choose kind. To let go, to drop the rope a little bit. It's okay to shift the goalposts. The goal here really is not doing the right thing. The goal is being loving toward one another. So it doesn't matter when the dishes get done if the marriage is strong. All these things. Matthew's like, please remember. But that we hope that this will help you think about how to choose kind. And we'll talk more about this in future videos as well. Thanks so much for joining us. We're happy to be back and better together. And we hope that until next time, you'll remember to love God, love each other, and that you will also be better together.
Amen.
Amen. We are better together.